While I was attending SUNY New Paltz in 2016, the Jazz Studies program offered a one-time course called Jazz Theory 3. The professor was a remarkable musician, composer, and educator named Vinnie Martucci. This same professor taught the previous two courses in the sequence, Jazz Theory 1 and Jazz Theory 2, which were a fairly comprehensive study of standard repertoire jazz covering everything from Louis Armstrong to Tin Pan Alley to Keith Jarrett and more. In this third installment, Vinnie introduced to us a method referred to as basic music practice. I spoke with Vinnie on the phone this past week, actually, to both catch up and refresh myself on a bit of the background of this practice. In 1972, a German musician named Karl Berger founded the Creative Music Studio in Woodstock, New York. The purpose of this study center was to advance musical thought by bringing together both students and masters of things like improvisation and composition in both jazz and folk music traditions. So Karl Berger is credited as developing the method referred to as basic music practice, but in reading his book very recently, I found that he is very quick to credit his own mentors, who were the legendary Ornette Coleman and Don Cherry, to the development of this method. I'll link that book below. You can find it on Karl Berger's Patreon. So essentially, this practice approaches music from the atomic level. The practice itself can be split into two categories, tonal and rhythmic practice. In tonal practice, the musician sings tones over a drone. In rhythmic practice, the musician says and plays some foundational rhythm patterns. So I have not personally attended any CMS workshops, but I have been engaging in basic music practice on and off for the past 10 years. My background on the method came primarily from the aforementioned professor, Vinnie Martucci, along with two other great teachers I was fortunate enough to study with, which were Charles Blenzig and Ingrid Jensen, both at Purchase College. I don't believe that Blenzig or Jensen were informed by the same school of thought necessarily, but they did arrive at very similar and complementary conclusions that guided me in executing my own basic music practice. As a student of this method, I can tell you that it definitely works. My previous two pieces covered the subjects of audiation and practice, and I would argue that basic music practice is sort of the distillation of those two ideas. After engaging in this practice for some time, you'll begin to recognize intervals, rhythms, and chord qualities in both recordings and live performances. You'll be able to sing melodies and ideas that you hear in your head without actually playing them first. And I would consider this practice to be the source of most of my musical aha moments over the last several years. Having practiced this method for years, I've refined my own approach to consist of a series of tonal and rhythmic exercises. This began as a graduate school project in 2021, and I've since utilized it with my own practice and with my private students, actually. This piece will focus specifically on tonal basic music practice, and you can expect a follow-up piece focusing on rhythm basic music practice. And because this information was passed down to me by gracious teachers and mentors, I'll be including the exercises I developed for free download in my Substack, which you can find linked in my description. If you have the means to support my work, consider becoming a paid subscriber so I can continue to publish resources of this nature for public access. Now, let's move on to your very own basic music practice. Let's begin with a couple steps of preparation. First, this exercise involves singing over a drone. There are some really great drones available on YouTube as well as on music streaming platforms. Cello drones and organ drones in particular are great for this. They really highlight the overtones so you can find the way the different tones fit in. C and D are great drones for lower voices, and G and A are great drones for higher voices. You can also use your instrument to make a drone. Keyboard, guitar, and bass work particularly well for this. Just be sure your instrument is in tune and not utilizing any pitch modulation or effects. To make your drone, you'll need a perfect fifth, consisting of a tonic and its fifth. Tonic simply means tonal center, and a fifth would be the fifth note in your tonic scale. So for example, if you were playing a C as your tonic, you would play up your C scale to G as the fifth. If you were playing G as your tonic, you'd play up the G scale to D as your fifth, and you would play both at the same time. Second, you'll need a way of finding each of the tones in this exercise before singing them. Again, a keyboard or guitar will work well for this. Lastly, this exercise is written in standard notation for ease of communication of musical ideas, and I will also link a handy chart for identifying those notes in case you are not super familiar with reading music. The following materials are meant to be utilized very slowly. I would encourage practicing one sequence or 1 to 3 cells per session for no more than 20 minutes. You'll want to begin with the very first sequence and not move on until you can confidently sing each pitch without using an instrument to guide you. Remind yourself that this method will bear fruit over time and not in any single session. First, sit comfortably in a chair with your instrument. Begin your drone and find the first tone on your instrument. On a neutral syllable, such as hum, ooh, ah, lu, la, or whatever else works for you. Hold the tone for several seconds. Not so short that you can't find stability, and not so long that you feel overly exerted physically. Listen to how the tone blends with the drone. Avoid thinking about consonance and dissonance, but aim for stability, meaning there are no wobbly sounds happening as the tone interacts with the drone. Repeat each tone at least 3 times, fully engaging yourself in this very slow and meditative practice. Once you've repeated your tone, move on to the next one and repeat the previous steps. Here is an example using this natural major sequence. So I'm going to demonstrate the natural major sequence in the key of C because it fits my voice fairly well. In Logic right now, I have loaded a cello, just a MIDI cello, playing a C and a G sustained so I can sing over that. And I actually don't really need an instrument to do this. I've been doing it for a long time, so I know where all of these tones are. With the chromatic ones that are later in the exercise, I don't know where all of those are, and I often have to reference. So it really just depends where you're at in your journey. But without further ado, here is my demonstration so you can kind of see what the roadmap for this exercise is. Here we go. I'm going to start with the first scale degree, Do. It's right here. I scooped into it there, but that's where it is. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to go to Sol, the 5th scale degree now. It's up here. Yeah, basically there. All right, here we go. Unstable at the end there, but we're getting warmed up. All right, let's go to the 4 Fa. It's right here. Find it at the end there. All right, we're gonna go to the major third now, mi. It's right here. All right, now we're gonna go to the second degree, re. This is where I would say it begins to become a bit more challenging to find some of the notes. But this is gonna be our re. Let's give it a try. All right, now we're going to go to the upper couple of tones. We're going to start with La, the 6th scale degree. It's up here. Yeah, there it is. Here we go. Now we're going to go to the 7th degree, T, also known as the leading tone. This one's fairly challenging. But here it is. Sorry about that, my drone kicked out. I'm going to start with T. Need to put a little more air behind it, but we're gonna finish off with our high do. It's up here, it's the same as the low note, but an octave up. Here we go. Now, I don't really feel like I need to go through the entire exercise in this video, though I'm happy to do that if that would help folks utilize this resource and utilize basic music practice. But if you go to my Substack and download this resource, you'll find that the natural major is only the beginning. It then goes into natural minor, and then triads, and then 7th chords, and then chromatic sequences, and then eventually you go through the entire 12 tones of the chromatic scale. Like I said before, it's meant to be utilized sequentially, so if you download it, please at least try the natural major stuff first. It may be fairly simple for folks that have a music education, but you'll be surprised at what notes are harder to find than others, and what notes you'll have certain tendencies on. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment and I will do my best to guide you in your own basic music practice. If you hung out this late into the video, I thank you dearly for supporting my work. If you like this piece in particular, I encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to dive a bit deeper into that resource, you can go to my Substack linked below. And if you want to check out my music, it is also linked below in the description. I will be back, next week with a Substack piece on basic rhythmic music practice, and then in 2 weeks with a video essay on the same subject. So you can expect more on this very ground level approach to learning basic music skills. But yeah, until then, take care. I will see you soon.